Shalom, Bible in a Year Live Tanakh readers. Today is day 5 of week 15, and we continue to read from the complete Jewish Bible. Today, 1 Kings chapter 6 to 7. Lord, as we go into your word, I pray that you will help us to understand it, lead us into all truth through your spirit, and I pray that you'll continue to be glorified by this effort, because Jesus Christ is Lord. Amen. Let's begin. 1 Kings chapter 6. It was in the 480th year after the people of Israel had left the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Shlomo's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of Adonai. The house which King Shlomo built for Adonai was 105 feet long, 35 feet wide, and 52.5 feet high. The hall fronting the temple of the house was 35 feet long, the same as the width of the house itself, so that its 17.5 foot width extended frontward from the house. The windows he made for the house were wide on the inside and narrow on the outside. Against the wall of the house, he built an annex all the way around. It went all the way around the walls of the house, including both the temple and the sanctuary. The lowest floor of the annex was 8.75 feet wide, the middle floor 10.5 feet wide, and the third floor 12.25 feet wide. For he had made the outer part of the wall of the house step-shaped, so that the beams of the annex would not have to be attached to the house walls. For the house, when under construction, was built of stone prepared at a quarry, so that no hammer, chisel, or iron tool of any kind was heard in the house while it was being built. The entrance to the lowest floor was on the south side of the house. A spiral staircase went up to the middle floor and on to the third. So he built the house, and after finishing it, he put its roof on cedar planks over beams. Each floor of the annex surrounding the house was 8.75 feet high, and was attached to the house with the beams of cedar. Then this word of Adonai came to Shlomo: concerning this house which you are building, if you will live according to my regulations, follow my rulings, and observe all my mitzvot, and live by them, then I will establish with you my promise that I made to David your father. I will live in it among the people of Israel, and I will not abandon my people Israel. So Shlomo finished building the house. The insides of the walls of the house he built with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the joists of the ceiling, he covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. The 35-foot back portion of the house he built with boards of cedar from the floor to the joists, and reserved this part of the house to be a sanctuary, the especially holy place, while the rest of the house, that is, the temple in front, was 70 feet long. The cedar covering the house was carved with gourds and open flowers. All was cedar, no stone was visible. In the inner part of the house, he set up the sanctuary so that the ark for the covenant of Adonai could be placed there. This sanctuary was 35 feet long, wide, and high, and it was overlaid with pure gold. In front of it, he set an altar which he covered with cedar. Shlomo overlaid the interior of the house with pure gold, and had chains of gold placed before the sanctuary, which itself he overlaid with gold. The entire house he overlaid with gold until it was completely covered with it. He also overlaid with gold the entire altar that belonged to the sanctuary. Inside the sanctuary he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 17.5 feet high. Each of the 2 wings of one of the cherubim was 8.75 feet long, so that the distance from the end of one wing to the end of the other was 17.5 feet. Likewise, the wingspread of the other cherub was 17.5 feet, and both cherubim were identical in shape and size. The height of the one cherub was 17.5 feet, likewise that of the other. He set the cherubim in the inner house. The wings of the cherubim were stretched out, so that the wing of one touched the wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. Their wings touched each other in the middle of the house. He overlaid the cherubim with gold. All around the walls of the house, both inside the sanctuary and outside it, he carved figures of Kruvim, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid the floor of the house with gold, both inside the sanctuary and outside it. For the entrance to the sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood, set within a 5-sided door frame. On the 2 olive wood doors, he carved figures of Kruvim, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid the doors with gold, forcing the gold into the shapes of the Kruvim and palm trees as well. For the entrance to the temple, he also made doorposts of olive wood, set within a rectangular door frame, and 2 doors of cypress wood. The 2 leaves of the one door were folding, as were the 2 leaves of the other. On them he carved Kruvim, palm trees, and open flowers, overlaying them with gold fitted to the carved work. He built the inner courtyard with 3 rows of cut stone and a row of cedar beams. The foundation of the house of Adonai was laid in the 4th year, in the month of Ziv. In the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, all parts of the house were completed exactly as designed. Thus, he was 7 years building it. Chapter 7. Shlomo built a palace for himself, taking 13 years to finish it. For he built the house of the Lebanon forest, 175 feet long, 87.5 feet wide, and 52.5 feet high, on 4 rows of cedar posts, the cedar beams on the posts. It had a roof made of cedar and supported by beams lying on 45 posts, 15 in a row. There were 3 rows of window openings, placed so that the windows on facing walls were opposite each other at all 3 levels. All the doors and doorways were rectangular and opposite each other at all 3 levels. He made the columned hall 87.5 feet long and 52.5 feet wide, with a columned corniced porch in front of it. He made the hall of the throne his place for dispensing justice, that is, the hall of judgment. It was covered with cedar from floor to ceiling. His own living quarters in the other courtyard set back from the hall were similarly designed. He also made a house like his hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom Shlomo had taken as his wife. All these buildings were made of expensive stone blocks cut to measure and finished by saws on the inner surfaces as well as the outer ones. These stones were used from the foundation to the eaves and outward from the buildings all the way to the great courtyard. The foundation was of expensive stone blocks, very large ones, stones 14 to 18 feet long. Above these were costly stones cut to measure and cedar wood. The surrounding great courtyard had 3 rows of cut stone and a row of cedar beams, like the inner courtyard of the house of Adonai, and the courtyard by the hall of the house. King Shlomo sent for Hiram and brought him from Sor. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, but his father was from Zor, a bronze worker filled with wisdom, understanding, and skill for all kinds of bronze craftsmanship. He came to King Shlomo and did all his bronze work. He made the 2 bronze columns, each 131.5 feet high and 21 feet in circumference. He made 2 capitals of melted bronze to set on the tops of the columns. Each capital was 8 3/4 feet high. He also made checkerwork, nets, and chain wreaths, 7 for the top of each capital. When he made the columns, he made 2 rows of pomegranates to put at the top of each column around the netting covering its capital. The capitals on the columns in the hall had shapes like lilies and were 7 feet high. As for the capitals on the 2 columns, there were 200 pomegranates in rows around each capital near the molding by the netting. He erected the columns in the hall of the temple. On erecting the right column, he gave it the name Yakin, and on erecting the left column, he named it Boaz. On the tops of the columns were shapes like lilies. Thus, the work of the columns was finished. He made the cast metal sea circular, 17.5 feet from rim to rim, 8 3/4 feet high, and 52.5 feet in circumference. Under its rim, 300 gourds encircled it in 2 rows. They were cast when the sea was cast. It rested on 12 oxen, 3 looking north, 3 looking west, 3 looking south, and 3 looking east, all with their hindquarters toward the center. The sea was set on top of them. It was a handbreadth thick. Its rim was made like the rim of a cup, like the flower of a lily, and its capacity was 11,000 gallons. He made 10 bronze trolleys, each one 7 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 5¼ feet high. They were designed with panels that were set between the corner posts, and on the panels between the corner posts were lions, oxen, and cruvim. The corner posts above were similarly designed. Below the lions and oxen were wreaths of hammered work. Every trolley had 4 bronze wheels and bronze axles, and its 4 legs each had cast supports, which were under the basin, with wreaths next to each. The opening of the stand into which the basin was inserted was 18 inches high. The stand was round, resembling a pedestal, and it was 2½ feet in diameter. On the stand were carvings, and the outside was square, not round. The 4 wheels were under the panels, and the axles for the wheels were attached to the trolleys. Each wheel was 2½ feet. The wheels were made like chariot wheels. Their axles, rims, spokes, and hubs were all casts metal. There were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each trolley. The supports were attached to the trolley itself. In the top of the trolley was a circular support 10½ inches high, and the trolley's corner post and panels were attached to its top. On the sides of the panels and on its corners, he carved cruvim, lions, and palm trees according to the amount of space each required, with wreaths surrounding. According to this design, he made the 10 trolleys. All of them were cast from a single mold, so that they had the same size and shape. He made 10 bronze basins. Each basin's capacity was 220 gallons and had a diameter of 7 feet. There was a basin for each of the 10 trolleys. Each arranged 5 of the trolleys on the right side of the house and 5 on the left side. The sea he placed on the right side of the house toward the southeast. Hiram made the ash pots, shovels, and sprinkling basins. With that, Hiram completed all the work he had done for King Shlomo in the house of Adonai. The 2 columns, the 2 moldings of the capitals on top of the columns, the 2 nettings covering the 2 moldings of the capitals atop the columns, the 400 pomegranates for the 2 nettings, 2 rows of pomegranates for each netting, to cover the 2 moldings of the capitals atop the columns, the 10 trolleys, the 10 basins on the trolleys, the 1 sea, the 12 oxen under the sea, the ash pots, the shovels, and the sprinkling basins. All these articles that Hiram made for King Shlomo in the house of Adonai were burnished bronze. The king cast them in the plain of the Yarden, in the clay ground between Sukkah and Sartan. Shlomo did not weigh any of these objects because there were so many of them. Thus, the total weight of the bronze could not be determined. Shlomo made all the objects that were inside the house of Adonai, the gold altar, the table of gold on which the showbread was displayed, the menorahs, 5 on the right and 5 on the left in front of the sanctuary of pure gold, the flowers, lamps, and tongs of gold, the cups, snuffers, basins, incense, pans, and fire pans of pure gold, and the hinges of gold, both those for the doors of the inner house, the especially holy place, and those for the doors of the house, that is, of the temple. Thus, all the work that King Shlomo did in the house of Adonai was finished. After this, Shlomo brought in the gifts which David his father had dedicated, the silver, the gold, and the utensils, and put them in the treasuries of the house of Adonai. Amen.